Beyond the 1980s revamp of Verdansk, there will be no new map for Warzone as far as we're aware. There could possibly be one later in the year, but it's looking exceedingly likely that we won't see any new Warzone map anytime soon. And in this video today, I actually want to explain why that's the case, and actually talk about a pretty tricky situation Warzone's found itself in that may be quite detrimental to the game. Of course, many of us want Warzone to last for quite a few years, but it looks as though that this could hit a couple of bumps on the way. There's a lot going on behind the scenes by the looks of things, and I do want to mention that some of the stuff in this video is purely speculation. Some of it has been sort of confirmed leakers slash rumor creators, but most of it just seems to be a perspective of common sense. From what we've seen publicly and from what we've seen to somewhat behind closed doors, this is what has happened and why we won't get a new map over the next year. So we have a 1980s version of Verdansk coming, and this is something that I think was the easy option for people who are developing Warzone at the moment, because at the moment, if you wanted to create a brand new Warzone map, the time needed would be exponentially higher. So a 1980s version of Verdansk is effectively what they can manage within the time frames that they've been allotted, and in order to get it out quickly, because obviously Black Ops Cold War won't be the most up-to-date Call of Duty for much longer. But why has all of this happened, and what's actually gone on here? Well, the story is a little bit rough, and it actually stems from the fact that Warzone wasn't supposed to be this successful, and Warzone actually wasn't supposed to exist after a single year. Now, many of you have seen the teasers for the Ural Mountains. The Ural Mountains was a proposed Call of Duty Warzone map that was going to have all the Black Ops points of interest, and it was going to be this really incredible thing. It was going to be the Black Ops Cold War equivalent of Verdansk, and it was something that a lot of people were excited for. It looked very diverse, had different characteristics, and most of the leaks that we saw looked pretty legitimate too. Now, what you don't know about this is that the Ural Mountains wasn't for Warzone. The Ural Mountains was for Blackout Part 2. As mentioned by Jeff Grubb, a widely respected industry insider who doesn't really miss when it comes to various different leaks, it was looking as though Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, which used the old Black Ops engine, was going to revitalize Call of Duty Blackout. It looks as though the initial plan for Black Ops Cold War was actually to develop Blackout 2 in tandem with the development of the game. The problem with all of that is that this was all planned long before Warzone was released, and when Warzone officially released, it went a little bit mental, because of course Warzone suddenly found itself being the #1 shooter on the market, and it found itself effectively taking the pole position in terms of hype and popularity. It exploded at the rate of something like Apex Legends or Fortnite, which is a kind of commercial success that you can't change, you can't get rid of. When you have something as commercially successful as Call of Duty Warzone, that is effectively an independent product that you treat as an independent product. Now, Activision being Activision at the time, didn't think that it would be that successful. They thought, you know, they'd have to release another Battle Royale, and that this Battle Royale would only really last a year. And of course, everything went a little bit sideways when Call of Duty Warzone registered millions and upon millions of various different players. In many ways, the guys who created Call of Duty Warzone and the Activision department above them didn't believe that they could do an EA-style Apex Legends, a game that would just become this massive hit out of nowhere, and they were completely wrong. Obviously, Warzone ended up being massively successful, people really like the engine that Warzone runs on, and effectively all the plans they had for Blackout Part 2 had to be thrown in the bin. And of course, since Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War runs on an entirely different engine to Call of Duty Warzone, bringing in assets from the other engine isn't as easy as it sounds. You have to apply different physics models, there may be different characteristics, and ultimately taking the Ural Mountains into the new engine was basically a task that was so large you may as well have completely remade the map yourself. As we've seen in the 1980s version of Verdansk, there are some assets that have made it over from Cold War, but these assets aren't things that are easy to make. You effectively have to recreate it because it's a separate engine. It'd be like porting in something from Unity into Unreal Engine 4 and then using the Unreal Engine 4 asset in the Frostbite engine. And if all of those words meant nonsense to you, effectively it's the real-life equivalent of trying to put petrol in an electric car. It just makes no sense. They don't fit together. Now with Warzone of course doing so well, they decided to give Warzone to Raven Software. Raven Software have mostly been a support developer in the past. They helped out with Black Ops, Modern Warfare 3, Black Ops 2, Ghosts, Advanced Warfare, Black Ops 3. They did Modern Warfare Remastered. But they've never really made an independent product or supported an independent product by themselves. This isn't something that's kind of new to them. You know, this is an entirely different tool set, and you have to bear in mind that the number of employees at Raven Software is about 239 at the moment, which is a lot lower than most of the original studios such as Treyarch and Infinity Ward. So they find themselves in a very peculiar situation here where they are effectively supporting their own independent game or their own independent product with a development team that's nowhere near as large as a company like Infinity Ward or Treyarch, and of course those companies only support the individual game releases, and many would argue that Warzone is in many ways a bigger product or a larger product than most of those individual releases because Warzone is free to play and much larger than anywhere else available. So suddenly we have this very strange void where Warzone exists, they need to continue to support it, and they need to continue to support it in terms of development to make financial gains from it, and they've had to completely can their ideas in terms of Blackout 2 or perhaps making another battle royale because Warzone is here to stay. The idea of yearly iterations has completely gone out the window, and as such Warzone is sitting in a spot where it needs attention and will require it. So suddenly we find ourselves in a very strange location because now we've got one development team working on this who likely don't have the manpower necessarily to deliver a brand new map with brand new assets, because all of those assets will have to be created, manipulated, however it so happens to be. So it's a little bit tricky here, and it feels as though the Ural Mountains idea was something that came about because of Blackout 2 and not necessarily because of Warzone. And because of all of this combined together, it effectively means that a lot of us are kind of sitting in the dark at the moment surrounding what exactly will happen with Warzone over the next year. And as many of you have rightly predicted, Warzone most likely will release a new map after this new Verdansk 2.0 iteration, but how long that takes is the real question, and how long this doesn't feel stale is of course another question entirely. So folks, that's exactly why we're not getting a new map for Warzone. That's why we're getting Verdansk 2.0 or remade version of Verdansk in the 1980s, and that's why things are looking a little bit tricky for Warzone, because it's safe to say that Warzone's success wasn't expected, and because of that a couple of plans are having to be adjusted in order to account for it. And if Activision takes too long to do that, then Warzone could be left without a fair amount of content. So folks, that's about it from me today, TheTacticalBrit. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like, leave a sub, and I'll catch you in the next one.